And so, you speak of the Proud Family. Yes, when we were doing our show, we really tried to touch on areas and subject matter that we felt really kind of resonated in the black community initially and foremost. So, and we knew that we could touch on it because all of our issues kind of span out in nationwide issues anyway. It's just the point of view. Once you get into the point of view, the story changes a lot. And so, so now thinking about Jamal's project, it's the same way. It's like, Jamal's story is a very intimate story, but we know that this resonates nationwide. So, so the fact that he actually can now put the spin on characters that we know, that's the entry point in this, and that's for us what makes it, that much more interesting and that much more intriguing and heartfelt, because you've got a story that's never really told in the medium of animation as bold as the way Jamal is telling it. I mean, it's unapologetic, it's real, it's true, and and Jamal's beautiful characterization. He's a great animator. Like, you won't hear that you won't read that in the Hollywood Reporter or the Variety, but Jamal's one of the best 3D animators on this planet. So for him to really sort of dig down deep and be able to tell the story, I had to get 100% behind it. And then once he did that, I knew that, okay, listen, I know somebody who can do some powerful music to match this powerful imagery that you're putting forward. And that's when I reach out to Bud.
All right, definitely. And I want to hear from Butter, and I definitely have to mention something that I did not mention last time. But just out of curiosity, I want to hear from Sonny as well. Have y'all ever talked about, or have even you, Sonny, have y'all ever dealt with issues that are as deep as this kind of what she talks about? Because, I mean, definitely you're talking about substance abuse, but she's been dealing with human trafficking and with things to deal with sex abuse and things of that nature. I imagine that the Proud Family has probably touched on that as well as some of the other shows that you've worked on. But I'm just wondering, how has your reaction been? Both you, Sonny, if you've tried to bring it to the attention of Hollywood, and you, the folks that are there in the Hollywood industry, when you've tried to bring hard-hitting issues to them.
Well, I had a conversation with Soledad O'Brien a couple of years ago. I actually know quite a few people in the industry, but I've been so focused on the work. And my play niece, who is actually the daughter of the pastor and first lady of 16th Street Baptist Church, is an animator and actually in Hollywood now, working for Shonda Rhimes. She started initially working for, I think it was Disney and some other places, and now she's working at Shalonda Land. But I think this is great, the animation piece and putting this all together. I'm a great supporter of those who want to put together a message. I have not heard about anyone trying to put the message of human trafficking in the works, but I do know some people that have had some stories and some storylines, people who have called me. I've been the subject matter expert for a few folks, but I think that we are not doing enough and that there is a way for these conversations. I'm also the former co-chair of the National Opioid Caucus and one of the few non-sworn individuals from Homeland Security to take the Drug Task Force Supervisor Training Program. So all of that, all of what you're talking about is in my professional wellhouse, but it's also in my personal space, too. And I love all of this. I will be a supporter, promoter, putting out your stuff. And two of my friends have just recently won the Black Film Festival, so he got Best Director. And he is the person, I call myself the Olivia Pope of crime, too, a master connector, and the Olivia Pope of crime. He used to be one of the news cameramen, and he just did a story, a film that's not animation, but he just won the Black Film Festival Director Award. So I'm all in for the Hollywood stuff. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So I'll support and put the stuff out because I have something else going on in Durham. If you send me the information, I'll share it across all of my mediums.
Fantastic.
Sounds great. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I know
and Butter, you
shorts.
Butter, you worked with Dr. Dre, so I forgot to mention that last time. So share a little bit about what that experience was like, as well as your involvement on this project, because that was the one thing I did not get to was the fact that we talked about Ninth and Dean's connection to Ninth, but we didn't talk about your connection to Dr. Dre.
Oh yeah, hey everybody.
Hey.
That I call that experience in my life. That was like my college years because I did not go to brick and mortar college. I was self-taught in hip hop for the most part, and working with Dr. Dre was like my doctorate program that I was able to go to. So I learned a lot during that process, which long story short, led me to being able to, sometimes you don't know why you're doing a thing or what you're being trained for, but one thing begets another. So in saying that to say, in me being self-taught in hip-hop and sampling, I wasn't a musician that played initially. But in being with Dre and during that time, it allowed me to learn musicianship and learn how to incorporate live music with samples, and then eventually, making my own versions of things that felt like something else, and then being more and more creative, which ended up lending me to where, and going back to when I got my first opportunity to do anything for film or television, Bruce had approached me in relation to Proud Family. So that's how the whole circle kind of turns around.
Wow.
In which, relationships are everything. He called me and asked me, he introduced me to Jamal. And, of course, I was floored that he called me one. But then when I saw the piece and saw what Jamal had done, I said, oh, man, I just felt fortunate to be a part of such a wonderful work. So in saying that to say, that brings us full circle. But, as much as it is what it is, on the surface, this movie is literally the elephant in the room that nobody talks about. And come November 1st when we do this program, and I hope you all can come, it's going to open up the can of worms or the elephant in the room that nobody talks about, to be able to be a springboard to touch on all of these topics. So I'm really excited for the project and where it's going to go and what it's doing, and just the conversations that'll come from this, that'll not only inspire others to make different decisions and choices in their life that can catapult them in ways that are good, but also to bring light to the opioid crisis or crack or whatever those things are that's plaguing our communities. These are things that we're going to open it up and figure out some ways that we can make some different choices, and people will physically get to see brothers who have made different choices, that have come from communities such as these and had decisions and had been in, I could say for myself that I had been in similar situations myself, and was only by the grace of God I was able to not, get stuck in it. I go back home to Pittsburgh, where I'm originally from, and most of my friends are dead or in jail. So, we all, I think collectively we all want to share, our experiences and being able to share that you can make different decisions. That one thing that you don't even think is a gift could change your life. It only takes one. So, hope you guys could all make it out. I'm excited about it.
I wish I could. Can you all make sure that I get Sonny, the information?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, Sonny. I just wanted to share with you, piggyback off of what Butter said. I mean, Jamal has done an amazing job. It is the icebreaker. It's the icebreaker for conversations, and it is online. And, yes, we can get it to you. He's done it in that it's open-ended. What Butter has created also allows him and Scotty allows for there to be an open-ended conversation and ends in a way where you're all curious to make your own story. So he's done, just like Bruce said, he's done an amazing job with creating this icebreaker for us all and all of these issues, including mental health.
Definitely.
Okay.
And Sonny, coming back to you, and I will make sure that you get a copy of that animation because they have sent it to me, and I will make sure that they send it to you. And I'm actually thinking I'm going to try to send it to Sree so that he can pass it across our whole Facebook Live audience as well, because I do know that we've had Lippy on, who's a part of the opioid crisis folks that are doing research, and we've had some other people that are either have been on the show or are planning to be on the show. So I'm hoping to make sure that it's available to all of our family in that organization as well. But one of the questions I had to ask you, and I'm just curious because they talk about the substance abuse it wasn't until it became more mainstream and more white folks, I guess I can put it bluntly, got impacted that we started hearing more about opioids. We started hearing more about methane and things of that nature.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
and it's been a crisis in our community for a number of years.
No.
So, do you think that I'm fair in that statement? In the statement of thinking that they had to be impacted?
Yeah. Okay, so it wasn't a crisis when it affected people of color. It was just called an issue.
Right.
It was the criminalization problem.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it was criminalized. Okay, and like I said, I have not always been a law enforcement instructor. I come from a family of gangsters. Okay, so the crack was not a crisis. It was a way to control our communities. Now, everything happens when they start changing, because I'm a big policy hawk and all of that. So policies change when it impacts people that don't look like us. And the opioid became a crisis when white children started overdosing and becoming impacted. That is the only reason why we have an opioid crisis. The opioid caucus that I served on was put in place before this dude that's in the office now, the orange dude that's in the office now. And when the orange dude got in there, then the opioid caucus became one of the select groups, select identifiers across the 10 regions, because there are 10 regions that are identified under the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. And the fact that they selected me as one of the co-chairs, that came about from somebody from the Obama administration, because I am not usually the pick, because I am very vocal. I am not the quiet chick in the room. When I walk in the room, I'm saying, I don't know if I like it this way, so I want to do something different. And we should not be shy and ashamed to talk about what the issue is. This crosses, this impacts communities of color, but we are not the ones that are targeted for the change. This is not a mental health issue. Drugs is not a mental health issue in communities of color, only in communities of crisis that are largely white. The only reason why we are being impacted in any sort of way is because when the money flows, we just happen to catch some of the residue. But this is really not our thing to change, just like reform is not our thing, even though we are the largest people impacted by criminal justice reform. So the reform is not for us, it is for other people. We just have to make sure that we are not only at the table, but leading the conversations, because that's not usually how it works. And I, as the co-chair, I used to ask everybody on the national call, and remember, I can't see who all is on the call, but I say, how many black people do you have on your team that are actually getting paid? Because, see, we're always good for volunteer. We look good as volunteers, but never as the experts getting paid at the table. So people can't call me unless they have money, and I make that clear. But the fact that there is this animation and that this is going to jumpstart the conversation really quickly. First of all, I want to get connected to all of you offline too, follow and all of that kind of stuff. But I also want to know if you are going after any of the money.
Yes, we are. That was one of the conversations that we had. Well, Mr. Bradley, I was talking to Mr. Bradley. I said, Mr. Bradley, do you realize what you have here? Because when you see it, you're going to see the doors that he is opening all over the community. And I'll let him finish that conversation. But absolutely, we are going after the money so that we can make a difference in our communities. Isn't that right, Mr. Bradley?
Yeah, and I also think that, when we talk on mental health, I'm no expert by any means, but I think there is a systemic mental health thing that happens. And although the drug epidemic in the black community happened as something to suppress us, it was only effective because of the plight in the community where jobs were being lost. There was no wages for the black fathers and mothers to actually